A Kenyan trafficker hunted by Russian mercenaries? Yeah, you heard that right. Today, we're diving into this absolutely wild story where the lines between the accuser and the accused, the hunter and the hunted, have gotten seriously blurred.
Okay, so let's get right into it. At the heart of a truly bizarre case coming out of Kenya, a man stands accused of trafficking his own countrymen into a brutal war thousands of miles from home. But just when you think you have a handle on that, the story takes a massive turn. The very same man accused of sending others into danger, well, now is claiming he's the one who's become the target. So picture this. We're in a Kahava courtroom. The defendant, a man named Festus Arasa Omamba, is facing a judge, but he's made a pretty shocking claim. His biggest fear isn't what's going to happen in that courtroom, it's what's waiting for him on the outside.
And this is where things get really crazy. While he's on trial, he's telling investigators his life is in serious danger. And who does he say is after him? The very same Russian mercenaries he's accused of working with. He even apparently told the police about these threats before he was ever arrested.
So that just makes you wonder, right? Who is this guy? And what on earth could he have possibly done to get the attention of a mercenary group while also facing charges from his own government? Okay, so let's unpack the trafficking accusation itself. This is the core of the government's case against him. The whole thing really boils down to this number, 25. 25 Kenyan citizens whose lives were allegedly put right into Festus Omamba's hands. So what is he officially charged with? Human trafficking. The prosecution is claiming he recruited these 25 men not for legitimate jobs, but through pure deception to go and fight for the Russian military in the war against Ukraine. And just look at this timeline. This wasn't some brief one-off thing. The alleged operation started way back on December 1st, 2024, and it continued all the way until late September of the next year. We're talking about nearly 10 months, which suggests this was a very sustained and organized effort. Of course, this story isn't just about court cases and mercenaries. It's about the very real, devastating impact it's had on families back home in Kenya. This slide really just gets right to the heart of the deception. It was a classic bait and switch. On one side, you have the promise, lucrative jobs overseas, big paychecks. And on the other side, the horrific reality, being enlisted in the Russian military and thrown onto the front lines of a brutal war. I mean, can you imagine? For months, these families have been living in total anguish, just trying to get any answers they can about where their sons are. They're facing the possibility of losing them without any closure at all. It's an absolute nightmare. Which leads us to the big question. How did this even happen? How does someone allegedly recruit and send 24 people to a foreign army without massive red flags going up everywhere? So let's try to unravel this scheme. Investigators are slowly piecing together this entire web of deceit, and it looks like it was pretty sophisticated. It seems like there was a clear, multi-step path to the front line. First up, recruitment. The men were lured in by Omamba's company, which sounded completely legitimate, Global Face Human Resource. Next, they went through medical checks at what looked like a real partner facility, adding another layer of authenticity. But the final step wasn't a new job, it was deployment to Russia, where they were enlisted in the military. And as you'd probably guess, the investigation is just getting wider. The director of that medical facility is now claiming he had no idea what was going on and that he was an unwitting partner. We're also learning this isn't Omamba's first time in the hot seat. He's been questioned by the Senate before. And with police raids happening and another arrest warrant pending from a different court, this web just keeps getting more tangled. And that brings us right back to where we started. This truly bizarre, ironic, and incredibly dangerous position that Festus Omamba is in right now.
He's essentially caught between a rock and a hard place. He's fighting a battle on two different fronts. In one corner, he's up against the Kenyan justice system, and in the other, he's allegedly facing a deadly threat from his so-called former associates.
And this quote from the source material just adds another powerful layer to all this. It says, "We are actually in an era where criminals are being supported by institutions that are supposed to protect Kenyans from the criminals." It really points to a possible systemic failure that lets these kinds of schemes happen in the first place.
And so it leaves us with this final, really provocative question. In a story this complicated, with a man who is both the accused and the one allegedly being hunted, where exactly does that line between perpetrator and victim begin to blur?